Is dating a non-Christian wrong? Let me put it this way. I would say this in one sense. It depends what we mean by dating. So I personally don't believe dating is right for a Christian. I think the time comes in the life of a Christian where we're ready, where we're thinking, praying about moving towards marriage. So I would suggest to you the only legitimate dating, kind of romantic relationship for a Christian is one that moves towards marriage between one man, one woman for life. And that's the only thing. So the idea of dating that is prevalent in our culture, the kind of idea that might say to a teenager, you know, have a boyfriend, a girlfriend for a few weeks or months, and you have another one, then you have another one, you play the field, you try lots of different experiences. I think that's completely wrong, both for Christians and for non-Christians. So my epistemology, my biblical worldview would be this: the only legitimate relationship for a Christian is one that leads towards marriage, or one that when you're in it, you realize, hey, this is not going towards marriage. And at that stage, you cut it off and you realize, in a way, dating, courting, if you will, is a place to discover, is this my wife or is this my sister? Is this my husband or is this my brother? And I think what we want to do then in dating is keep a relationship in such a safe place, sexually obviously, but even emotionally, that we're not crossing boundaries and hurting something. In a way, I would say what we should do in dating is never get ourselves so physically, but even emotionally entangled in a relationship that if that relationship ends, we won't be embarrassed, you know, for the rest of our lives, because God will want us to love that person in a righteous way for the rest of our lives, not as our husband or wife. So that said, is it wrong to date a non-Christian? Yes, I would say it is, because simply I would say this. I would say it's wrong. It's not God's best for a Christian to marry a non-Christian. Now, if you're a Christian who's married a non-Christian, you may be watching this and thinking, Graham, you're condemning me, you're blaming me. No, I'm not. But then if you are genuinely a Christian who's in love with God and you're married to somebody else, while you love them, you would probably give that advice to your kids. The Bible says, don't be unequally yoked. And as a pastor, one of the hardest things I've got to deal with at times is when you're walking with a man or a woman in a church setting who's on fire, who's passionate for God, who wants to give everything for the work of the gospel, and they're with somebody who, even, at times somebody who opposes their walk with God, or simply somebody who's cold and indifferent to that. I wouldn't wish that on my kids. I think those of you who are married to a non-Christian wouldn't wish that on your kids either. And I think we need to be honest and real and true with, I was going to say younger people, but dating can be at any age, with somebody thinking about marriage. And I would say from the bottom of my heart, there's no point in starting a relationship that if you'd never marry that person, don't start that relationship. Again, let me address one more thing here. Courting is not a mission field. If you want to go in the mission field and lead people to Jesus, that's absolutely wonderful. But the idea that I will date somebody, I'll hang out with them, get romantically involved with them, and then God's going to use that to bring them to Jesus. That happens sometimes, but it's very, very, very rare. In fact, usually the opposite happens, that the person, the believer, the one on fire for God, usually comes down to the level of the other person. So I think on really clear biblical grounds, I would say no, don't date a non-Christian. Find somebody who loves Jesus more than you do. Find somebody who loves Jesus more than they love you, and you've found a really good person. That may be tough, but I believe that's really good advice.